Hello, good morning, good afternoon, I should say, everyone. Happy Wednesday. I hope you're having a great week so far. So today we have a masterclass in gems with Elena Basaglia. I really hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Elena is from Gemfields, which is an amazing company. They are a world-leading supplier of responsibly sourced gems or colored gemstones, if you will. They specialize in, if I'm not mistaken, emeralds, specifically from Zambia, and rubies, I think, from Mozambique as well. And they really, again, support, as should we all, essentially having a very transparent, responsible supply chain when it comes to gems and gemstones in general. But so today, I suppose what we're going to be really diving into is who Gemfields are, of course, and how and what Elena does, but also just to give you some real great advice and great knowledge in gemstones, particularly because we understand that we, with the Once Club members, a lot of us are dealing with clients who are very much interested in fine jewelry, specifically with gemstones, but now it's really important to ensure that they understand what they're purchasing, what that looks like. And I think this is, I don't think there's anyone better from Gemfields, essentially, who could give us that type of knowledge and information. So welcome, Elena. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your beautiful introduction. I think you covered some very important key points in your introduction. So thank you for, hinting at those. And I hope I'll be able to expand onto them and satisfy all kind of curiosities that our audience have today. So let's start with a little presentation of who I am. In this slide, it's pretty much what 1 year of work looked like in picture if you was a downstream manager for Gemfields. So my job entails some travels to some incredible places. On top of our list might be actually our mines. There is a picture of myself with a client at a mine. There are my hands portrayed with some rough rubies against the ground in Mozambique. It also entails traveling to our auctions where our rough gemstones are sold to factories who are specialized in the cutting and processing of natural gemstones. But also it entails a liaison with jewelry brands and other stakeholders of the business, such as laboratories, museum, auction houses for the cut and polish products. So perhaps the best way to put it, a downstream manager in Gemfields is the last link of the supply chain for Gemfields, but the first link of the supply chain for the industry.
Right, okay.
Because I am the link in between the stone in the rough and the moment they are cut when they get into the market. So I don't know if that makes sense, but it is quite an elegant job. And my days are quite colorful and bright, I must say. Who Gemfields are? Gemfields, as you rightly said, is a world-leading supplier of responsibly sourced colored gemstones with a keen focus on Africa. We own 2 mines. We own the Kaja mine in Zambia for our emeralds at a 75-25 ownership division with the government of Zambia. And the same split is for the ownership of the Montepuez ruby mine in Mozambique, which is a recently found deposit, which we only started operating approximately 7 years ago, I want to say. And it is probably the most important discovery of the time for natural resources and for rubies in particular.
I mean, just to cut you, how often, because in my mind, I always thought that most mines have been operating for decades upon decades. And so how often is it to find like a completely new source or like a new mine? How often does that happen?
Wow, good question. Look, it doesn't happen every day. Let's put it like that. The thing is, for a mine to be viable for a large scale operation like we do, it obviously have to have a large capacity. So after you find in the ground some telltale sign that some crystallization have happened in that part of the land, you just need to carry out loads of other studies to ascertain the lifespan of the mine and to make sure that you will be able to actually carry out and justify the cost of large scale mining. So I would say it's very rare.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Very rare, and yeah, very special when you find one.
Sure.
So for rubies in particular, the Mozambican discovery was really, really special. And we are, obviously very happy to be to be owner and operators of the mine in Mozambique. The Gemfields group actually includes also the famous jewelry brand Fabergé, which holds a huge historical importance. So we are very happy and glad to have them as part of our group of companies.
That's amazing. I didn't know about Fabergé. That's amazing. That's
Yeah,
very cool.
yeah. It allows us to talk to a different type of clientele, obviously, about color stones.
Sure.
Because obviously they are jewelry brands, so they have direct contact with clients, with customers. So it's very good for us to have, them to talk about color stones and the importance of responsibility in color stones to their consumers as well. So I think it's a winning addition to the Gemfields group.
Absolutely, because I suppose you're getting a completely different, not different, but you're getting a different a perspective, like you said, that is really speaking to the client and what's important to the client. Because I suppose everyone down the supply chain itself always has a certain perspective of what's the most important, but the end consumer essentially sometimes might not be so fixated on what's very top priority from a different person, even though they're sort of like, the end consumer and at the end of that chain.
Yeah, exactly. Offers a different perspective as well. Yeah. So a key tenet of our business is responsibly sourcing, as we already said a couple of times so far. We work we champion always three core values, which for us are transparency, legitimacy and integrity. Sorry for my and obviously we live and breathe these throughout all of our actions. So that means from the mining sites, we obviously employ responsible methods in mining by using no chemicals, by treating employees in a fair manner and pay fair wages throughout the whole of all the operations. It also has a keen eye on conservation and the environment where our mines are located, to make sure that if the day we will vacate the space, it's not going to be left with big dug holes, but it will be restored to, to natural and good standards for the land not to be damaged. We also calculate that the value of our natural resources paid back to the countries. We want to think that they take maximum return from the sale of our gemstones. But in addition to the taxes that we pay to the government, we also carry out some different programs around our mine for the support of our neighboring people. So we built school for kids. We introduced a system of ambulances and health support for the population that live around the mine. So like I said, integrity and legitimacy and transparency are really applied at every level of our operations. Talking in specificity about the promotion of colored gemstones and all the industry initiatives that we carry out with jewelry partners. We obviously look to affiliate with people and companies that are like-minded to us. So for us, it's very important that whenever we work in a collaboration, like we recently did with Sandy Leon, a stunning brand from the States. We really need to make sure that, you know, they also live and breathe the same ethical concepts that we apply in all our in all our operations. So for us, it's very important to partner up with people that mirror our interest and our ethos, really.
Sorry, how do you go about sort of ensuring that those partners do kind of are in line, you know, with your main principles?
Yeah, so it's very interesting because bringing as an example the Sandy Leon collaboration we worked on recently. Sandy was very forthcoming and really opened up all the details and all her protocols of how they work within her company to make sure that their supply chain really is transparent. So obviously there is a pre-screening and an initial conversation where we share as many details as possible. And you then find how open and forthcoming people are when they really mean well and they do want to do well. So it has been a match made in heaven, and this one alongside other collaboration we worked on in the past. So
right.
It's very it's very nice to see, like I said, how forthcoming jewelry brands are when they really mean and they have a good interest into doing something good. Basically, it's because they realize that selling jewelry, it's a happy occasion, and it shouldn't be only a happy occasion for the receiver of the jewelry, so the lucky lady receiving the jewelry, but if the country of origin for the component of the jewelry can also benefit from this happiness, then it is truly something very good. So this is probably what really moves jewelry brand to make every effort possible to bring sustainability and transparency within their business, because they really want the whole happiness around jewelry to be celebrated by everyone that's involved.
Absolutely.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
So buying gemstones, it is an art, but it's probably an art that we all know without knowing we know, really. Because the very first and only rule, if I should say, about buying gemstones is to buy whatever you like. The beauty of colored gemstones is that they come in each and every color that you can imagine. And especially corundum, which is the family of rubies, which includes sapphires as well. They actually come in all the rainbow colors. So 100 times out of 100, there is one gemstone for each and every person out there. So there are obviously gemological parameters by which the gemstones are graded. Nevertheless, it's very, very important to let everybody understand that the best judgment is their own judgment when buying colored gemstones. Because after all, you would want the gemstone on your finger to smile back at you every time you look at it, not because somebody told you was beautiful, but because you honestly feel it beautiful.
Sure, 100%. And this is something that we find a lot that happens, you know, within fine jewelry, but probably I would say luxury in general. But essentially, not everything for me is necessarily going to be for you. So you should really go with what you love. And like you said, you can sort of have a guide of, but really it should go down to what is gonna, like you said, you're gonna love on your finger or on your, you know, around your neck, in your ears. You know, it should be what you love.
Yeah, mostly also because obviously color is extremely personal. So all of us, you know, respond differently to different colors. Some of us prefer lighter colors, some of us warmer or colder. So it is 100% a personal choice. Like I said before, obviously there are gemological parameters, and we need those because obviously those are needed to establish a market value for the gems. But again, a lower price doesn't mean anything bad. It just means, you know, perhaps some imperfection or some different natural features that are there because they belong to nature.
Right.
So that needs to be celebrated.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So speaking about the basics of gemology, we all heard probably a million and times over about color, clarity, cut, and carat. But let's make it the famous 4 C's. So let's make it a little bit more personal. First of all, let me tell you, the 4 C's for color stones work the other way around as they do for diamonds. So whilst you want your diamonds to be colorless, you obviously want your colored gemstones to be full of color. And again, as we discussed so far, color is probably the most important feature of a colored gemstones. That's a bit of a no-brainer, probably. And color is extremely, extremely personal. So there's nobody, despite, again, gemology tend to grade how full of color or how saturated a color gemstones is. It's completely a choice of all of us to decide our favorite color. Color is also interesting in the case of rubies, for example, because rubies and sapphires, they share the same chemical composition. They're part of the same gemological family. They are just two varieties within the same family. So there is a big debate all the time that a pink sapphire or a ruby are put side by side and their color is similar. So at what point in the scale of red does it stop being a ruby and does it start being a sapphire? And this is something very funny in the sense that there is an old joke that says the stone will be a sapphire if you are the buyer, but it will be a ruby if you are the seller. And that's because obviously there is a massive discrepancy in the value. But yeah, color, we could talk, I can tell loads of anecdotes about color. But color is definitely something very important and very personal. All of our eyes see color differently. Even the place in the world, depending on the equator line where you are positioned, allows you to see a different warmth to the color, especially this work with rubies. A ruby viewed in Bangkok under the beautiful sunshine of Thailand, it will have a different glow than a ruby looked in London, for example. And this is something else very interesting.
That's super interesting. I had no idea. That's
yeah, color is extremely subjective.
Yeah. Okay.
In terms of clarity, we like to think as clarity as the Mother Nature fingerprint. So clarity tells the story of what the stone have been through before reaching your jewelry, basically. It talks about some distress during the formation of the crystal. It talks about some other natural material being trapped within your gemstones. Clarity talks a lot about history. I'm one firm believer that a natural gemstone should have some natural inclusions, some little inclusions. I honestly spend loads of time here at work, probably I shouldn't say this out wide, but looking into gemstones with the microscope because I enjoy exploring this parallel world to ours. So yeah, I'm one firm believer that crystal clean gemstones are probably less interesting than gemstones that feature some particular inclusions.
Right.
In terms of cut, we can talk about the shape, so the outline of your gemstones that includes the cut. We can also talk about the symmetry, how the cut influences the return of light to your eyes, and how a well cut, so symmetric gemstones actually dances with the light as opposed to looking flat and dull. But we could also talk about cut under the aspect of how difficult is the cutting of color gemstones because of their properties. Color gemstones, not all of them, but if we talk specifically about emeralds and rubies, they are both diachroic gemstones. Therefore, they show two different colors depending on which side of the rough you look at.
Okay.
And this poses big challenges to the cutters because obviously they will always have to find the way to cut the gemstones so that it shows the best of the two colors. I have been to cutting centers in India, and there are people who have, born in cutting in families of cutters, and for them is an absolute easy job. They just do it with their eyes closed, sat very comfortably on the floor, still using hand wound machines.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's magical to see. Whilst for me, it would be like taking a piece of wrap in hand, and once you saw into it, that it's done.
Done.
So
So you have to be sure, you have to know what you're looking at, what you're looking for in terms of the optimum color. Yeah, I can only imagine.
and also one little tiny degree to the right or to the left can influence the price of your final gemstones by a lot sometimes. So it's a massive skill. So probably this is something very interesting to portray. It's a concept quite interesting to portray to clients when they look at gemstones, and they might make, comments of, the stone maybe being of a shape they don't particularly love. Often is the rough that dictates to the cutter the type of shape they need to cut out of it.
Mm-hmm.
After that, obviously, the cutter also has to control, to check what kind of inclusions are within the stones, and also to get the best color out of it. So really cutting is something that is extremely difficult and interesting to explore further.
Sure. I mean, I never kind of equated the idea that the cut could have such a huge impact on the value itself. That's
Massively.
extremely important, and I think that's a very valuable thing to let clients know, like to be aware of when it comes to selecting certain pieces, or kind of appraising jewelry, if you will, and valuing it at a particular price, and understanding that journey. I think is something that you can always use in a conversation, because I don't think that is something that is common knowledge, or as common as people might think.
Absolutely, I fully agree. It's not really something that is commonly taught, but by all means, it's paramount.
Yeah.
It's a paramount step in the transformation from rough to cut and polish, obviously, and it does bear a big, influence of what happens after to the gemstones. And lastly, carat. Obviously, carat is referred to the weight of a stone, not really to the size. Size in gemology is talked in millimeters. The weight is the actual weight. Basically, each and every material on Earth have a specific weight that tells you how dense the material is. So if you were to take a 1 carat ruby, it would always be much smaller than a 1 carat emerald, because corundum rubies, they have a tighter bonding within their crystal structure. So their material is very dense, therefore is much heavier than emeralds.
Okay.
So this is again something quite interesting
Cool.
to know.
Definitely.
But Gemfields went the extra mile, as we do, and we added 2 C's to the famous 4 C's. And character is my favorite of all. It's really the individuality of each gems. It covers everything. It covers inclusions. It covers what kind of emotion you get when you look at a stone. So character is personal to all of us. So it's a C, it's one of the 6 C's that has a super strong personal connotation that cannot be dictated or judged. And then certification again. Certification is very important because it would be an expert, independent third party assessing what you are declaring as a gem dealer. And it gives peace of mind to consumers that what they're purchasing is effectively something of that kind of value. So certification where possible, it's an important piece of paperwork that should be requested by consumers. Let's dig a little bit into emeralds. How beautiful is this photo? This photo was taken, I think, from one of our mobiles during one sales auction in Singapore. How beautiful it is.
It's amazing. And I was just looking at the picture and I was like, to kind of have all the character of the emerald, but then even like with it against the fingerprint, I think it has a really beautiful connotation. Actually, to get that on a phone is awesome, amazing.
I know, right? Yeah. Well, having such a good subject, it's easy to get out a good result. But here, actually, in this photo, you can see the hexagonal crystal structure of emeralds. So you can see the 6 corners. Can you, roughly, yeah? And you can see that one side of it is bluish green, whilst the middle is a rich yellowish green. So here you can see a little bit was what I was telling you about gemstones emeralds being pleochroic, so having 2 different colors. So 2 different variation of green, for example, bluish green or yellowish green. And this is again a piece of rough from our mine. Rough emeralds from our mine are on a blockchain nowadays. And we also use another traceability technology to trace gemstones to the place of origin, which is unique to the Gubelin Gem Lab. It is effectively a liquid infused with DNA nanoparticles that carry on some information that we decided to code onto them. And what we generally code onto these nanoparticles is a date and a place of origin. So we're doing all we can. We are trying to lead the industry towards, transparency and traceability, so that the clients of jewelry can one day, hopefully not too far, have a clean chain of custody of their gemstones from the moment it was taken out of the ground in our mine till the day it reached their hands.
That's so interesting. And that doesn't affect, and obviously that doesn't affect the integrity of the gemstone.
It's micro, teeny, tiny particles of silica. They are completely invisible unless you have the right microscope to decode, to see them. But yeah, it doesn't deter from the quality of the stone at all, because a stone infused in this liquid would still be able to get, the flawless grade for gemstones.
Great idea, I think, being able to kind of like thinking of the future, essentially, what that means, and kind of, that's so cool.
Yeah, there is a strong interest from coming from consumer for cleaner supply chains, cleaner chain of custodies. So Gemfields is very proudly, looking and exploring million different ways to bring transparency to the end consumer. And like I said, the DNA nanoparticles are one, and blockchain is another technology that we use with our color gemstones. Um, Emeralds, probably till date, the most famous emeralds were always Colombian. Um, and um, it's a concept that's very much dictated by history. Our mine in Africa, despite being over 500 million years old, um, well, the formation of the crystals of emeralds in the ground in Zambia, it was actually discovered back in the 70s. So it's a fairly recent discovery. Before, you know, Zambian emeralds coming to the market, obviously the biggest references come from Colombian emeralds, and that's probably why Colombian emeralds still slightly lead the way, and in people's mind they are the most famous or probably better. But over the course of the years that we at Gemfields have been trading with Zambian emeralds, we can see that the sense of appreciation of the customers is shifting, and it's opening up to new deposit, especially the fact that we transparently support the countries of origin of our gemstones gives an extra incentive to the customers to put attention over Zambian emeralds, because they know that by purchasing a Zambian emeralds, they are effectively supporting the population around the mine.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is quite interesting. Even during my 7 years at Gemfields, I can see how different the behavior has been of consumer towards us presenting Zambian emeralds years ago till date. So it's definitely a positive feature. And then another feature that's quite unique for Zambian emeralds is because of their formation. And because of the way our mining is done, the last steps of our mining are always done by hand. So it's a very gentle and delicate way to take the babies out of the ground, really.
Yeah.
So we really apply very little, if no stress, to the crystals. And we're often able to recover fairly large pieces of rough, which allows for more freedom to the cutters, and obviously less stress within the gemstones. So as a rule of thumb, usually Zambian emeralds tend to be less included than emeralds from other locations as well, which is good for those customers who prefer clean looking gemstones.
So those are for ones who are not looking for so much the imperfections within the stone or within it, you know, what might look like a slight mark or something. If something like a flawless look, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So unless there are any particular question on emeralds, I shall move on to rubies.
Yeah, perfect. And by the way, if we have any members who want to ask any questions, hopefully we will have some time towards the end. So do pop in your questions in the Q&A if you want to.
Rubies, like you said, the deposit in Mozambique was only discovered a few years ago. Despite, again, the crystallization in the Mozambican ground is as old as 500 million years ago. We already covered a little bit of the difficulties of grading the red of a ruby versus the reddish pink of a strong pink sapphire. But probably another important topic to cover whilst talking about ruby is the famous word that is pigeon blood.
Oh, really? I don't know. Tell me.
So pigeon's blood is a historical term that comes out of Myanmar, really, the mines in Burma, to describe the best color of the rarest type of rubies. And it was associated, like I said, to the rarest at the very, very top qualities of rubies that they were able to dig. It is a trade term, it's not gemological term, and it has a definition that is a little bit subjective depending to who you're talking with. Unfortunately, the public have heard so much about pigeon blood rubies that it looks like everybody wants to buy a pigeon's blood ruby.
Okay.
Exactly knowing what they are and without really realizing that it's nothing that can be measured, because color is not measurable nowadays still. So again, Gemfield's take on this is that, you know, instead of being extremely influenced by what the market say is the best or should be done, is really to follow your heart, because maybe sometimes you might find that a ruby that's graded as pigeon blood might have a slightly darker tone than a vivid red or a slightly lighter color anyways. So again, try to forget the influence of the market and really follow your heart. Red for rubies, it's for passion. We speak with brands recently. We see loads of new collection coming up with rubies. They allow very playful motif. They allow different styles. They are often cut in fancy shapes because rubies are quite a hard gemstones, unlike emeralds, which are more brittle. Rubies, are allow the cutter more freedom in, cutting like smaller corners or different domes or different fancy shapes. So it's definitely an interesting stone. Again, we apply blockchain on our ruby parcels as well. So hopefully not in a long future, we're gonna have jewelry houses able to sell ruby jewelry to their clients with a clean supply chain, demonstrable as well, which is nice. And unless there was anything to add here, any questions?
No questions yet.
Yeah. So personal shopping and gemstones, like I said until now, color gemstones is a very, very, very subjective choice. Color is subjective, shapes are subjective. The way they are set, they give different reflection and different look to the gemstones themselves. So probably the best way is try always to let your client free to choose without any kind of judgment, really. Because it would be extremely difficult to sell a color that at the end of the day doesn't suit their skin tone or doesn't match with their mood. Color gemstones, they also are associated with all the months of the year. Mm-hmm. So that is a nice excuse to offer a gemstones over another one to a client for a particular occasion, or because they were born in that special months, for example. But yeah, my best feeling would be not to try to influence too much one over another, because color should really be let, choose free.
Yeah, I think birthstones are always a really great way to start. I definitely have had, especially when it's a gift for somebody or somebody wants to kind of invest in something. Maybe this is a first time that they're sort of looking to kind of, purchase something of that value. And so at least this is instantly meaningful and what have you. Although saying that, I think my birthstone is ruby, ironically enough.
So you were born in July.
Yeah. And when I grew up, I was always a bit disappointed because I was always like, I don't know if I like rubies, and like my gran actually has a beautiful pair of ruby drop earrings that my granddad had made for her in Singapore, and I think those are all time have been my favorite piece of ruby jewelry. But I definitely think I'll be re-looking now, because I didn't realize about this association with sapphires, and actually maybe there's a lot more depth in terms of the color that I think that maybe I've really had exposure to. So it kind of takes you, I feel like I'm going to go on a rabbit hole of
and double check. No, for sure, for sure. I mean, the playful aspect of color stones is right that as soon as you start reading something and get little points and inputs, then the next time you look at a piece of jewelry with color stones, I bet you will be remembering a few things from this call today.
Oh, for sure.
You're gonna for sure apply something.
Definitely. Out in terms of all the gemstones, are there any particular gemstones that tend to have more value over others? You know, are emeralds more valuable than rubies in general, or could it really just change depending on that particular rough cut?
Look, this is a difficult question to answer, but we tend to look at the auction words record by Christie's and Sotheby's whenever a big jewel with a large featured gemstones come on at auction.
Okay.
We look whether there are some some record-breaking numbers achieved at that time. So obviously the big threes always drive demand and prices. So the big threes are obviously rubies, sapphires, and emeralds, and diamonds. We can't forget diamonds. And color diamonds as well. There is a strong appreciation for color diamonds, probably also on the tail of the love for colored gemstones. It has been a few years that there has been a rise in colored gemstones appreciation. We witnessed it, and it's it's synonym with rebirth and happiness. So it's definitely a good point.
For sure. And I've noticed that there has been a huge, like you said, a huge shift with people who maybe because they are looking for things that are more meaningful, things that maybe have a wider resonance to, you know, their lifestyle or, you know, just in general kind of their environment. You know, there's, I mean, I don't know if you agree, but even with crystals, for example, I'm seeing that that's a huge new thing. So I think there has been a huge shift maybe from colored diamonds into gemstones and what they look like. And especially when we start looking at engagement rings now, it's not necessarily just about
that's true.
Diamonds. Have you seen that as well?
Massively. The engagement word has shifted quite strongly to color gemstones, driven by some famous people as well, getting engaged with sapphires or emeralds. But I think that younger generations who are now getting engaged are definitely keen on something that's more personalizable as well. And definitely color gemstones offer great chances of uniquity and personalization due to their different colors, different shades. Also because it actually inspires even the jeweler to create something that's more, creative, effectively. Because color moves the sentiment within a person, whether it's passion, whether it's happiness, whether it's
nostalgia even, I suppose, as well.
So yeah, they're playful, precious little items.
Sure.
And they do inspire everybody in the supply chain for to add some creative bits to their story, really. So that's lovely.
Cool. I have a couple of questions. So one of them is what is the difference between a colored diamond and a gemstone?
So if you consider gemstones everything but a diamond, so if you group colored gemstones for their varieties, for their different families as a whole group. And then diamonds aside. Diamonds are diamonds. They are one family, one variety, end of story. Gemologically speaking, I say.
That means that they're formed differently, do you mean?
Everything is unique about them.
Okay.
So diamonds, they are, made of crystallized carbon, let's be honest. Obviously, the conditions to form a diamond are extremely special and extremely rare. And they are found in deposits. They have very special characteristic diamonds. They are particularly tough, hard. They have a particular luster, which is in fact in gemology called adamant luster. So very high luster, very high dispersion. They have this beautiful fire coming from within. They follow quite strict guidelines of how to cut them. So some proportion must stay the same for the diamond to be lively and keep, bouncing and playing with light. Whilst color stones, the term color stones includes a million varieties of different gem material, gem and non-gem, really. Minerals and non-minerals, because amber sometimes by some people is considered a color stones as well, whilst amber doesn't really have a proper crystal structure, but it comes from the trees. So or coral as well sometimes is included with color stones when you speak, but it's not necessarily a colored gemstones as a whole. So the colored gemstones word is a very broad word that includes lots of different varieties, countless varieties that come from more than 80 countries in the world, in all type of deposits, not all of them viable for large scale mining, obviously. So most of them are conducted by artisanal miners, which do a great job to bring the quantities they can to the market. But yeah, there is a distinction gemologically, but also in the trade for the two words of color stones and diamonds. Usually the principle of transparency, legitimacy, etc., they should be applied to both, and they are. The companies who do mining of diamonds are as careful as we are in doing exactly the right things and being respectful to the environments where they operate. But yeah, we are considered two words side by side. Probably also the diamond word, the diamond trade is much older than the colored gemstones trade. With the discovery of the beers, etc. Colored gemstones in a large scale like today, it's obviously more recent. I might be slightly wrong actually, because obviously the Indians and the Mughals in history, even Cleopatra herself was adorned by emeralds, for example. But when I say this, I only refer to large scale promotion and trading of colored gemstones. So that's why I say is more young than the diamond business.
Absolutely. Okay. And then just one last question before we go. Are there any sort of guidelines or do's and don'ts around, the best type of how can you put it, metal or hardware for
colored gemstones?
Yeah.
This is very interesting actually, because obviously every gemstones have their own characteristics. So it's very good to understand the characteristic of the gemstone before deciding the metal. Okay. So because emeralds are quite brittle, you might not want to set them into platinum, because by hammering and during the platinum setting, you might apply too much pressure onto the gemstones. So you need a more malleable metal, for it to require less pressure to be set.
Okay.
With the emerald. So yeah, whilst diamonds, which on the opposite are very tough gemstones, they are very good to be set in platinum, because platinum is not very malleable, so needs lots of pressure to be set to be put in place. And emeralds, and diamonds can withstand that type of pressure, but emeralds can't. So you might want to do emeralds in some more malleable material, like 18 karat gold or less.
Okay, interesting. Well, sadly, that's all the time we have for today. But I found this so interesting. You've given even and I've been selling fine jewelry for on and off for quite a few years, but just kind of understanding it on such a different level makes all the difference. It allows me to look at the pieces differently, but also to kind of sort out certain questions, like certification, like supply chain, but also being able to give confidence, if we're talking about sort of stones and kind of making a piece or creating a piece from the stone. So thank you so much for sharing your presentation with us and your time, of course. And I remember you said earlier off camera that you had some great PDF booklets that might be helpful.
Absolutely, yes, that cover pretty much what I discussed on this call today.
Okay.
It's 3 PDF booklets. One is all about emeralds with some incredible photos, one all about rubies, and one is about responsibly sourcing.
Oh, awesome. So if you share them with us, we can pop them on the platform, right? And we'll put them in the resources channel, so they'll be downloadable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much.
To take them, by all means, yes.
Thank you so much, Elena. This has been fantastic. I hope you have an amazing rest of the day. And I guess we'll speak soon, hopefully.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Bye.